Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a Flesh and Blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 93 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host, and people, you fucking people. I care so much about making sure that these episodes run sequentially and pseudo on time that with Charmer out, I called in Mara Faris and this bottle of scotch to get me through this fucking show.
Oh, you are so...
You are so... Let's be fair.
Has it been 30 seconds? No. Okay.
Oh, fuck no. We can't do that. No, okay, absolutely not.
Okay,
we are done with that shit on this episode. We're already off the fucking rail. I don't care. I just don't give a shit. And so Mara's taking the spot of... I've even got this box cutter just in case. But Mara is taking the reins for me with Charmer, feeling a little on the down and out. But thank you very much for filling in on short notice. And did you do anything in Flesh and Blood, or are you just going to Charmer this up the entire way?
I mean, do you want me to pretend? If you want me to pretend I'm Charmer, I can just be like...
I don't want you to pretend you're Charmer. I want you to be Mara.
I've never heard of Flesh and Blood in my life. Okay, so I actually did quite a lot in Flesh and Blood this week. Although my weeks have been running together lately. In the last 4 weeks, I've been in 3 different cities playing 3 different major tournaments. We did Atlanta to then Nationals to then Columbus, and I think that was a week ago. And then I've played.
That was this past weekend. That was the weekend before.
Was it this weekend before? What day? I don't even know.
It was the weekend before this past weekend.
I barely know what day it is. Today's Monday. Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah. So
that was slightly over a week. So then I did 2 armories, and then I've spent the last week hard testing because I'm sure we're going to talk about my spoiler card. It's pretty good, and totally upends a whole lot of stuff. So I've spent most of this week either in Discord chats or in person doing a whole lot of testing. Dromite's good now.
Was good before, but this is wild because this is the first time a host of Flesh and Pod has actually had a spoiler card. So this is new and different.
Wait,
but
you definitely had Flake on here once.
I would never consider him a host. Flake is here to
Elaine hosted the show once.
Actually, Elaine and Tommy did. Yeah. Okay. So you are not the first. That is true. But they waited. They did not have They had not had a spoiler card, and then after they got the Flesh and Pod glow up, they got their spoiler card. You didn't need our glow up. You already had it.
If you want, I can re-spoil my card so that we can pretend that LSS acknowledges Flesh and Pod. No,
okay. Absolutely not.
All right.
No, we are exactly who we are, and the time for worrying about whether or not they're going to give us a spoiler card or anything like that is completely through. I'm hoping that at some point in time, it's they understand that we're just not a couple of fucking jackoffs, which, I mean, I did name the show this week Wax On, Wax Off, and spelled wax, WHACKS, so I get it, but the
clues are there, right?
They know, but at the same time, it's we do some things that are pretty nice. We've raised money for charity on the show. We've done a few different things. We're not complete douchebags. We're good at a certain type of thing.
You're not complete douchebags. You just talk like them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talk like assholes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's irrelevant. But you do... See, this is really wild to me because having a co-host that actually does something in Flesh and Blood is alien to me.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
So I don't know how to handle myself in this regard. So, have you enjoyed your time playing the game the past week? I don't fucking know how to add. I don't know how to talk about this.
I really have. I'll be honest, I was actually just talking about this week. I literally spent the last 3 weeks going from city to city to city playing this game. And I've been sitting here all day today going, when the heck's the next tournament? When's the next thing?
Milwaukee.
I really, and I'm probably not going to go to Milwaukee. Milwaukee's real far for me. And I really want to go anyway.
It's like Chicago. It's the same as going to Chicago.
No, it's farther than Chicago for me.
Not,
I'm in Virginia.
no, barely. Yeah, like Milwaukee is like an hour from Chicago by car.
Yeah,
it's an extra 20 minutes of flight time.
Yeah, and Chicago was already like an 8-hour drive. Like, do you really want people to be 9 hours in a car with me?
Oh, I mean, that's a valid point.
Somebody's gonna say the word Dromai and it's over.
If they just avoid the trigger word, if they pretend it's you can't do that on television and avoid saying I don't know or water, they're gonna be safe. They just need to understand that those are the rules going in, and if they fuck up, it's on them.
Dude, I will find ways to work it into the conversation.
But if they dodge, you have to respect the dodge.
No, I don't. I definitely don't. Well, I have never respected a dodge in my entire life.
That's fair. Well, I mean, okay, fine. You dodged a lot of Guardians on your way to a Pro Tour top 2 finish.
That's fair. I found one, though.
You did it, yeah, in the finals.
I found one real hard with my face.
Don't worry, I got revenge on him for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's not Travis levels, but I just made sure, unlike Dagan, I took care of business.
Okay. That's good because Michael Fang is like my bane. Like, I swear.
He's good at Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, and not only is he good at Flesh and Blood, he has this way of like he and I were talking about this recently. He has this way of next leveling the shit out of me. I don't know what the hell it is. So he and I played in Atlanta, and we played on camera at the PTI event in Atlanta. And so he, on his first turn, shows me 2 fucking poppers. And I'm just like, sick. Then he shows me a 3rd popper. Then he pops a dragon with a 4th popper on like turn 1. He's on Lexi, shows me 4 poppers. I'm like, all right, we're fucking in now. Like, I just start jamming dragons. Yeah, so turns out he ran 9. I got fucking steamrolled because
you got beat pretty hard at that point in time. That's not great.
I got
so you were my pick to win nationals and you didn't do it. So, but let's talk about some nationals.
All right.
So Isaac Crute won. So Canadian nationals, I would consider again the top end of the Canadian player pool is utterly fucking stupid.
That's facts.
Because the worst part about all of this is that it's just a hairy tarantula armory.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's horrifying in and of itself.
Yeah.
But Isaac Crute took it down playing Lexi.
Mm-hmm.
Just like kind of everybody else and their dog, it seems like it was.
Most everybody took everything down with Lexi, except the US because we have to be fucking weird, I guess.
Well, somebody made a meta call.
Yeah, that's fair.
And they nailed it.
Yeah.
And the funny part was that it wasn't that they were that Charles Dunn wasn't the only person to make that meta call. He was the only one with the balls to do it.
Yeah.
There were so many other people in like different Discords and different conversations that I'm involved in that were like, this is a really good time for Big Briar.
Yeah.
And all of them either played like Lexi or Bravo or something else.
Yeah, I know.
And none of them pulled the trigger on it except for him.
Yeah. Even I know Wolfpack was testing Briar. I think they were on just like a CMH Briar, but like they were all on Briar for a while, and then they all just kind of quietly decided that was not the deck for them.
Yeah, and that's totally reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really, and I'm going to say the trigger word, sadly, but I think it's interesting with as much Lexi as there is out there. I feel like two things. One, Uzuri was underplayed.
Uh-huh.
And 2, Dromai performed very well.
Mm-hmm.
In parity to like the number of people playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do a couple of just quick hitters here because we really need to talk about the 2 decks that are now pushing the Living Legend envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And you can talk about decks exactly how I meant to say that for a long time. Again, exactly how I meant to say that.
I love a good deck.
Just you love bad ones too. I mean, you're kind of all over the place when it comes to decks.
That's fair.
And so Lexi's at 926.
It's a veritable battle of wits over here.
I mean, it's really not. This is the blind leading the blind.
Oh, I was talking about big decks.
I was talking about smaller ones.
Oh.
But not Lorcana, but like, you know. Any rate. So we got Lexi at 926.
Yep.
Icelander at 834. So 2 major questions. We're gonna take the easy one first. Icelander needs 83 ProQuest wins to be gone. I think she stays.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Lexi doesn't. Lexi needs 37. 2 things. One, are either of them gone after ProQuest season?
I think Lexi almost certainly. Like Lexi, barring any dramatic changes. Like, I mean, it's always hard to say, like, you know, guess the meta before, you know, a major set release and we got a ban announcement coming. But like, assuming things stay the way they are, I would find it very hard to see Lexi sticking around. Lexi has proven to be not only a dominant force, but a very consistent one. Lexi is a very straightforward deck and a very easy deck to just kind of pick up and play at like a reasonable level. So it's not hard to see why so many nationals were just dominated by Lexis. I think, you know, we've seen metas before that like there were dominant decks, but they were difficult to pick up, and we see a lot of people just shy away from them. You know, when we saw like the Icelander dominance and Oldham and things like that. And you see a lot of people just like, oh, I know that's the best deck, but I just don't feel comfortable playing that deck. And so you see a lot wider meta spreads. And with Lexi, it's kind of not the case. Like, it's pretty easy to get just a baseline on Lexi. So especially at the ProQuest level, it's not going to surprise me to see a whole lot of people just go, oh, this deck's pretty easy to play and it's real powerful. So just on sheer numbers alone, I think we're probably going to see a Lexi exit by the end of ProQuest season.
So, but you don't hold the same opinion of Icelander?
I don't think so. Like, one, I think Icelander in general in this meta, Icelander's been in a weird spot in this meta for a while where she's a good deck and clearly putting up numbers, but does not have a particularly easy time into Lexi. And it's always hard playing any deck where you're willing to go into, you know, a meta where you're like, I think this meta is going to be, you know, 40% Lexis. I'm going to play a deck that has a bad Lexi matchup. It's hard. You've got to be real comfortable on that deck, so you're not going to see a whole lot of people picking up Icelander for the first time for ProQuest season.
What if Rhea Adams plays in 83 ProQuests?
I mean, then if Rhea Adams plays in 83 ProQuests, then buy Icelander. Like,
okay, good.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
If our ProQuests are just like Rhea has 40 ProQuests lined up, and Michael Hamilton has another like 35 ProQuests, and Majin Bay picks up with like 20 more, like, sure, we can expect our Icelander exit. But I don't know how they're gonna manage that. That's a lot of work for 3 weeks of ProQuest season 2.
Oh yeah, no, it's like 4. I think that's another weird one. Is for one of the callings, was it Auckland?
Yeah,
which calling is it?
They
get an extension. Yeah. They get an extension of the season, but for Dallas, the U.S. doesn't. And I'm like, interesting.
Yeah, but I was a little surprised by that too. I'm stressing a little with this ProQuest season because
I don't know why you are.
I am actually currently so I ended 53rd in limited elo, so I am gonna have to burn my PTI for my Worlds invite. I'm 53rd in limited elo and like 56th on 90-day XP. It kills me a little bit.
Ouch.
So yeah, I am not gonna have a PTI going into ProQuest season. So pressure's on a little bit, and I've got 2 weeks of ProQuest and 1 calling. So we'll see.
That's why you should go to Battle Hard Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's real. If someone wants to like sponsor my trip to Milwaukee, and they want to explain to my boyfriend why I'm going on another trip in like 2 weeks, then maybe.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. So it was something absurd, like 41% of nationals were won by Lexi, which is,
was it even
41?
Whatever number. I actually thought it was higher than that. It was an absurd number.
it kind of gets to be a whatever number when you talk about some of the smaller nationals.
Sure.
Just because, if it's a 20-person nationals and 11 of 20 are playing Lexi or something like that, okay,
Yeah.
sure. And there's going to be some number of those.
Mm-hmm.
It was a surprise to a lot of people that Lexi didn't win the US, but we kind of already, he dipped a toe in that. It's understandable when somebody, makes a soul read on the format and just goes in with what they, worked on and
Mm-hmm.
played to his play style that they're literally just associated with.
Yeah.
That's what he's known for.
Yeah.
So do we need the banned and suspended announcement on, well, it would be next Tuesday, the 19th, I believe. Is that right?
18th, I think. It's right around there.
18th, yeah. Do we need that announcement to do anything to Lexi ahead of ProQuest season?
So that's always a tough question. I don't think I anticipate anything. Like, Lexi is very clearly the best deck in this meta. But I also think of all of the best decks we've ever had, like if you go through just like the history of Flesh and Blood and pick out all of the just dominant decks, I think Lexi is the most fair best deck we've ever had. Lexi is not Starvo, she's not Scalata Viscerai, she's not Chain, she's not Prism. She's a very powerful, consistent, aggressive deck, but like still has bad matchups, still is targetable. I don't think they need to touch anything. Like, I also think like at some point, like you let the Living Legend system do its job. Like I said, she's this close. I don't think she's such an oppressive force that this like this doesn't feel like Starvo ProQuest season where it's just an oppressive force that's keeping everything out of the game.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Think so? She's definitely she's a dominant force. There's no question about that. But
so I think it's the function of people feeling like they have to pick that deck up. It's not necessarily how dominant Lexi is. It's how many people are going to feel like, well, if I don't pick up Lexi, I'm just playing to lose. And that a little bit of that has been reinforced. My selfish thing, because I just want the trifecta, is I would love if Voltaire got banned, just so every weapon from Aria, majestic weapon from Aria, has been banned because I like completionists.
Sure.
But the realistic thing would just be to suspend 3 of a kind. To be completely honest, Lexi's still good enough. But it hurts a little bit.
This is where it gets complicated because if you ban one of her big power cards, like if you ban 3 Oak, if you ban Codex, I don't know if she's good enough. Part of what makes Lexi really strong is the amount of power turns that she has. She has the 3 Oak turns, she has the Rainrazor turns, she has the Codex turns, and they're powerful turns. There's no question. And they give her a lot of consistency. And taking one of those away definitely hurts that consistency pretty substantially. I don't know. I don't know if taking away something like 3 Oak would be enough to just tank her place in the meta. That's a big hit.
Sure. I look at this as kind of a suspension until Lexi leaves type of situation. And I do feel like there's enough play to Lexi builds that if you take out that card, they still have room to play. They have room to build, and she's still going to get over the line even without it. So,
probably, but I think she limps over the line. I think she becomes like Briar, where if you take 3 Oak or something, I think she just limps over the line. I think she probably still makes it because she's close, but I think she goes out with a whimper and not a bang. I would be kind of curious to see, instead of taking one of her power cards, to kind of give her a Starvo treatment and take away something else small. They already took away Bracer, which I think was a really good hit. I'd be curious to see, like, take Infecting Shot. Like, just take away, like, one of her good above-rate arrows and just see what happens.
Sure. I mean, take Bolt and Shot.
Sure. Yeah, I think take Bolt and Shot would be actually a really interesting one.
Just to spend Bolt and Shot until she's gone, and then Azalea can play it as when she's gone. I think that's fair too.
I think that would be more. I think that would interest me more than just seeing them just gut one of her big power hits. Like, just take a little bit of consistency out. I think I could see that.
I feel like having Bolt and Shot and Falcon Wing makes, those are the enablers for those insanely massive Rain Razor's turns.
I agree.
And having to shift the deck a little bit into other ways to give go again outside of just giving this fucking card +1 is probably a good way to go. So I think that would be interesting. I do think that they will look at hitting something. I don't know that they will.
Yeah, I don't either. Like,
they feel like they're really content to let the Living Legend system do its job, and we can have discussions forever about whether or not it is doing its job. But that's kind of not. I mean, it's not a very interesting discussion. Like, let's be fair here. We're not doing shit about it,
right?
And so far, we've in any spot where we'd be like, well, this fucking deck sucks to play against. Either I think they just looked at the number and said, yeah, and it's gonna suck for a while. We need to do something about it, or it's gonna suck for another month. Who gives a shit? And kind of let things play out. Like the Autumn's Touch ban was for Starvo was literally we want people to still play in tournaments ban.
Yeah,
but it felt like they didn't want to. It was like, oh shit, we need to do something about the consistency here. Let's take out this blue block 3 that also happens to attack for 1 billion whenever they happen to do the thing at a roughly 70% rate.
Sure.
But I don't think Lexi's that, and I don't think Lexi will ever be that.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I stand as far as like Lexi feeling like a much more fair best deck.
Yeah,
I do kind of agree though. Like, there is something to be said about like the number of people that might go into this format feeling like they need to play Lexi, and that's probably a problem. But I do think Lexi has enough not great matchups. I think Dromai's still a good matchup. I think Azuri is still able to target Lexi. Like, I think there are things that can be done still, but that may be too much of an ask for like an average ProQuest grinder to like really hammer out the counter matchups. So you may just see Lexi, and like I said earlier, like Lexi's a very easy deck to pick up. So that may be worth discussion of a ban just because you don't want to put people in a position where they just feel like they have to play this deck.
Right. And I think that's what the consideration is, not anything else. It wins a ton right now. Sure. And if Lexi wasn't the best deck, there would be a different best deck.
Yeah. There's always
going to be one. Sometimes they're the hardest to play. Sometimes they go for the long game, but there's always a best deck. I'm
kind of okay with the best deck just being a very fair, very linear, slightly disruptive, aggressive deck.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than Icelander being the best deck, that's for sure. Fuck that fucking thing. But
I love Icelander. I think Icelander is a really interesting deck, but I'm glad Icelander is the best deck in the meta right now.
I'm proud of Dash for getting up to 646 on the legend board, and Viserai has finally hit the halfway point.
Viserai got 1, right?
Viserai is up to 500 living legend points, so did a great job. Again, thank you to Vishra for putting this doc together. It is the best thing. I mean, seriously though, like I can just click on a Google Doc and see what who's won what. That's great. I love it.
Yeah. I think actually talking about whether bans are too extreme or not, I think we can look at both Vi and Viserai. Those two decks were incredibly dominant, both 8 really big bans, and are both just kind of whimpering at tier 3 now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could actually unban Belittle and it'd be fine.
Yeah.
But that's just a personal opinion of somebody that likes to play ninja-y shit.
I mean, like, I'm content with Ninja staying dead forever, but I'm kind of biased, so.
Right. I think you have some skin in the game on this one. So I'm pretty sure that we can just discount your entire opinion here.
Mm-hmm.
Although, I mean, it probably says how bad that matchup can be when I was playing into a Dromai and they tumble-tied my Mask Momentum on turn 1. And I still won that game. Yeah.
Big,
it was hard. I had to work for it.
Yeah, like Big Dragon Dromai in particular, that matchup is just, it's bad for them. They just don't have a lot of pressure.
Right.
Like, at least the aggressive Dromais can at least, keep your feet to the flame and be like, all right, cool, you're going to beat me, but you've got about 3 turns to do it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
3 turns sounds about right.
Yeah.
Blocking, math is for blockers.
Math is for blockers.
Here, face.
Yep.
I would like you to eat 13. Okay, call. 22. Shit, that's more.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of information, and by information I mean spoilers, from the expansion slot in Bright Lights. So we're gonna tackle some of these, including one that my wonderful co-host was blessed to spoil by
the official Flesh and Pod spoiler.
I guess.
Yeah.
Got to have one at some point, right? But
take what you can get.
It's not much. But first of all, I want to talk about like how the overarching feeling from you competitively as a player about the expansion slot. How are you feeling about the slot in particular in PAX?
I honestly couldn't be more excited. This is actually something that I've had conversations with people locally about in the past, where being able to do something like this opens up so many possibilities. Because something that we've seen before is that when a set comes out, if that set's not a supplemental set, we don't see major interesting developments unless there's something really big for the class that's featured in this set. Otherwise, everything else just sort of stays very stagnant, and so you see a lot of everything stays still, and then one thing moves around the meta. We saw Lexi, the meta prior to Outsiders, was pretty fixed. We saw the Icelanders and Oldhams and Phis, and then Phi took a ban, Icelander took a ban, and then Lexi got a shit ton of new cards, and so now the whole meta just shifted around Lexi. And so it made metas feel almost a little bit predictable, to where you're like, oh, the new set's coming out, let's just expect the new hero to be the new hotness. And this expansion slot kind of upends that some. It lets us say, all right, Dash is going to get a whole lot of new stuff in this next set. Dash is probably going to be a force to either Dash or at least one of the mechanologists, probably going to be a force to be reckoned with in this new set. But we're also getting some little drops here and there for some of these other classes, to where it's a lot harder to predict. I think we'll talk about Dromai, I'm sure, at some point in this, and Dromai looks very interesting now because of one card. It's kind of crazy how easily a single card can so dramatically change a deck, and I think this gives them the tools to continue to add that to the game, and I love it. I'm super here for it.
So I've got I'm kind of in a love-hate relationship with it. The love portion is, you're making me care about the set again. And that's something I've been critical of, where I just didn't give a shit about it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I thought the expansion slot was just going to be reprints. And as somebody that owns virtually everything that you can play in the game, reprints don't do anything for me. So being new cards does get me interested in the set. However, if you're looking at 12 packs per box having an expansion slot card in them, now the cost to obtain some of these is going to be astronomically high in some instances. So let's use a card that isn't going to be good enough. Wax Off. Let's say that Wax Off suddenly makes Ninja the best deck. None of this is true, by the way. But let's say that waxing off is going to make Ninja the best thing you can do. And everybody that wants to play Ninja and play the best deck needs 3 of this Majestic that comes only in the expansion slot and needs them week 1 for Milwaukee or 2 weeks later in Dallas, right? Those are going to be prohibitively expensive only for scarcity. No other reason. It's going to be a surgical extraction type of situation where they're going to be harder to find because you don't have as many bites at the apple necessarily in that expansion slot. And the kind of just, again, it depends on how the expansion slot plays out. There's a lot of information we don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was going to be really curious about. And again, like we just don't know. But there's a world where they've mathed this in a way where, you know, you consider the chances of opening a random Majestic in the set and like how many actual Majestics are in the set compared to the chances of opening an expansion slot Majestic, and there are substantially fewer in that pool. Like there is math that exists where you could actually make them about as rare as a normal Majestic in the set for any single specific Majestic. And if they do the math right and they do it something like that, then I don't think it's going to be a huge problem.
Right, but you can see why the concern is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because we have precedent.
There is a chance they fuck this up real bad, and these cards are obscenely expensive.
Right,
but I think that's something they're at least aware of. So
sure,
I definitely want to like wait and see before I get too pitchforky.
Well, let's start with the ones that we know won't be insanely expensive. Let's start with Smashing Performance. On the good side, it's a Brute 6.
It's a Brute 6. It's a yellow Brute 6.
That's a yellow Brute 6.
Closest we're ever
goes with the bellows.
To another blue Brute 6.
It does not block, which
is good for me.
Okay,
I'm very
more
Brute 6s that don't block, please.
Yeah, it could have just had 0.
No blocks
in that little bottom corner, and said it's a no block.
We need it. It's a defining feature of the Brute class. No blocks.
No blocking. But it does mess up items pretty badly, which is also kind of fun. So I'm just going to read the card because, you know, maybe nobody's and not everybody's seen it. It's a Brute yellow 6 cost 3, or 6 attack 3 cost. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more attack is discarded this way, destroy a random item in the arena. We love destroying items as Brutes, apparently. They're just here to break shit. That's it.
You know, I will say this. This was the very first card spoiled in this set. Of all of the cards that are super hype and super exciting and super interesting, the first card that LSS decided that they want to introduce the world to Bright Lights is an item destruction card. Makes me real scared for the items in this set.
Yeah, that does actually bode not great, especially when I believe it was on Instant Speed, where James White was talking about how Data Doll is probably good now, and I'm like, shit.
I'm not gonna lie. I literally I went to my LGS this Thursday for our armory, and I just bought a playset of foil Smashing Good Times, just in case. I was just like, they're like 50 cents for the foils. I just want to have them.
You might as well.
Like I saw that card and I was like, you know what? If LSS thinks that this is the banner card that we all need to know exists, maybe I just want to have some item destruction on hand.
And this thing doesn't even have to hit.
Yeah, no.
You just have to set it up. That's about it. That's pretty good. Yeah. But the no block is not ideal.
Like
so sideboard card at best.
In the current world, this card is very mid. It's just kind of there. But like going into the world of Bright Lights, we may have a very different opinion of this card in a month.
Oh no, that's 100% true. Next one, we're going to when we're talking about cards that won't matter, we're going to talk about Wax Off again, because waxing off is what we do here. And Wax Off is we're going to talk about how this is good for Ninja. It is a blue pitch 0 cost, so it enables Kadachis. It's a block 2 defense reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Not great. But it does say if you've played Wax on this turn, create a Zen State token. For those that don't remember, Zen State tokens are a giant pain in the ass to anybody that attacks for 1. It's how I used to beat Prisms with Ninja. Because they just shrink all attacks by 1. Womp womp. So they come into play with a balance counter. If you at the beginning of your turn, you remove a balance counter. If you can't remove a balance counter, you destroy the Zen State. And then the Zen State reads, attacks targeting you, I believe just you, I don't think it says allies, have -1 attack.
I mean, there's no ninja allies, so safe.
Yet. I'm thinking that at some point, every class will have access to an ally of some sort.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, this card's a blue 0. That's about as good as it gets. And having to play the card Wax on.
So, I'll be honest. I am very slightly higher on this card than I think everybody else is. I think it is definitely incredibly difficult to set up. I think it's super unreliable. But because... So first of all, like, the payoff is actually huge. Like, the Zensei token is worth a lot in some matches.
A lot. It's a ton, yeah.
Like, even let's look at Lexi as just, like, the baseline right now. Lexi is going to fire, on average, 3 arrows a turn. Presumably, you will have, Wax off the first arrow and Wax onto the second arrow. So you're going to get the second and third arrow this turn, and then 3 arrows on the next turn. So, like, you're looking at getting 5 points of damage reduction off of the Zen State, plus the 2 points of block. That's a 0 for 7.
You have to do that the other way around, though. You have to Wax on first before you Wax off.
Oh, sorry. Well, I have backwards. Yeah. So you Wax on the first one, then Wax off the second one.
Which Wax on's not the worst, considering like Bolton shots cost 0.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's a block 5 on a Bolton shot.
So like it's narrow, but in a situation like that, like you're looking at getting a 0 for 5 followed by a 0 for 7 on 2 cards. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. And so like it's real hard to set up. You have to get both of them. You have to get both in the same turn. Like, there's going to be some amount of like camping one in arsenal, waiting on the other. But like you mentioned before, it is still a blue 0. It is not that hard for them to just chuck that in their deck and then just be like, well, whenever this lines up, like if we're in a meta where you want to be playing Wax on anyway, the opportunity cost for playing Wax off is very low. So like there are definitely going to be some amount of games where you just happen to just draw it and just be like, oh,
could just be Ninja Turtle could be the deck again.
Yeah. I think, is it likely that deck will be the deck to see a lot of play? Probably not. Like I say, it's still weird, it's still difficult, but I am at least high enough on the card that it's if I was a Ninja player and I really liked Control Ninja, it is a card at the very least I would put in my little box of cards I want to remember exists.
No, that's probably a good idea. Like, that's kind of just how you treat Ninja Blue 0s to begin with. Like, you want to know all of them exist. And it's a Ninja Blue 0. So there you go. Next one, Warband of Bologna. It's a Bolton card.
Yeah.
Do I even need to read about it? It's a Bolton card.
I have been told by some Bolton mains that this card is decent.
I believe them because it's just better than Skullcap.
Probably.
Like that's well, I mean, it's guaranteed block 3 instead of maybe block 3. And I guess like
is it
action part of it
temper or is it battle worn?
It's temper. It's temper.
Okay. So it's actually not it's not actually a block 3. It's a block 2 plus the sack text. I mean, you can block 3 with it, I guess.
You can. Yeah. You can.
So yeah, I guess right. I guess it still just technically makes it better than Skullcap.
Right. So it's because it's a guaranteed block 3, but the action on it is for 2 pitch, you can destroy it. The next time you attack this turn, you may charge your hero's soul. If you charge a yellow card, you get to draw a card.
Yeah, like I have been told by Bolton mains that this helps with their consistency. It's nice for like, because sometimes you just have a turn where you don't have a charge card and your entire deck is dead. So I can see a world where Bolton decks really want this card. It's got good stats. It does a thing that their deck likes to do. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
The art's kind of cool.
It's got really pretty art.
Yeah, I like the art.
Like,
It's nice.
so may knocked it out of the park in the art.
I mean, that's just kind of typical of Flesh and Blood anymore anyway.
Yeah,
like, all the cards are just gorgeous.
Let's
go to another one that the art is absolutely gorgeous. Shriek Razors, because it's just Freddy Krueger's fucking glove. Like, this thing is awesome.
That art is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is sick. Like, I love everything about this art. Now, the card itself, I mean, it's a battle-worn block 1 assassin arms. Destroy 2 silvers if this is in your graveyard to re-equip it. Attack, reaction, destroy it. Target attack action card defending an assassin attack gets -1. The fact that you have to target an attack action with it makes me kind of sad. You can't target equipment with, like, you know, with Shred or defense reactions. So it's kind of like a little mid with that regard. I don't see this as a Flick Knives replacement personally.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit weird to me on this one that they gave us a second legendary for a class that does already have a very well-defined legendary in that slot. And not only that, it's one that fills very much the same role. Like,
right.
Like, if they were going to give us a second legendary, I would have kind of expected it to be like something that does something very different. Like something that interacts with like the contract stuff or like stealth or like something that like very like a very specific niche. And instead it's fine. I think it's actually a good card. Whether or not it's better or worse than Flick Knives is going to be up for debate. But it's similar. It is just similar enough to Flick Knives that it feels odd.
Yeah, and it's almost like they wanted to have a differentiator in there for Arachne equipment versus Uzuri equipment.
But is it even?
And
like, because I mean,
and they didn't.
Yeah, like both of these feel fine for either deck. I think
right.
You could run either of these in either deck and be pretty fine either way.
Yeah, they should have put Arcane Barrier on this one.
That would have made this very interesting. If this had Arcane Barrier, that definitely changes things.
Right. I think that would have been... That would have given it the line of text it would need to own its own little spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if this had Arcane Barrier, I'd be much more excited about it. As it stands, it's going to probably be one of those things where if you have a new Uzuri player at your local meta and they're like, which gloves do I run? The answer is just whichever one you find cheaper.
Right. Like whichever one a vendor has if you're missing it.
Yeah. Like I think both are fine. Both are solid. Both have some pros and some cons. And they're both fine.
Fine's a good word.
Yeah.
All right. Bottle of scotch. The next card.
Oh,
spoiled.
Is there another card? Oh, I was unaware.
No, you weren't.
No, I wasn't.
Is Tome of Imperial Flame. I'm going to take this bottle of scotch.
Uh-huh.
I am going to sit back and I am going to now let you talk until I tell you to stop.
Oh, God.
Cheers.
All right. So, Tome of the Imperial Flame. It is the new Draconic action. It is 0 cost, has natural go again, and reads, draw a card. If your hero is royal, draw 2 cards instead. Then you may pitch 2 red cards. If you don't, banish your hand, go again. Card's real good. Card's real good. Does a lot of really silly things for Dromai. As a matter of fact, if a couple of weeks ago you had asked me to craft the perfect Dromai Dream card, it would not be as powerful as this card. I literally had one of my testing games this week where I went Tome of Imperial Flame into Flamecall Awakening, into Kyloria, into Chromai, into Pitch the Phoenix Flame to Furnace, into Vincerikai, into Dust Up. This card does a lot of interesting things, does a lot of really powerful things. It dramatically changes the way Dromai decks are going to look. Redline decks essentially get access to a blue pitch, and the Big Dragon decks get access to efficient Ash generation. And I think you're going to see a lot of brewing and a lot of evolution in Dromai. And I don't even know where the decks can end up right now. I think there's a lot of options and a lot of potential directions. I cast a Tomotai in a redline deck last week, and that is a thing that probably shouldn't happen. Felt real good. And yeah, I don't know. This card is fantastic. It's awesome. Doesn't block, and that's about the worst I can say about this card.
So, what's the floor for this card?
The floor is 0, make 2 Ash, turn on all your dragons, go again. Like, that's the floor. That is the worst this card gets, is 0, make 2 Ash, turn on all your dragons.
But there's a price for that. Because you have to be playing a deck that has 0 non-red cards.
So, not even 0. Like, every blue card that your deck does run makes this slightly more inconsistent because you cannot pitch a blue card to it. Like, you have to pitch 2 reds. So,
or you banish your hand.
Yeah, or you banish your hand. But, like, that's exceedingly unlikely in any draw my build, unless you're just running, like, even the big dragon lists that are running, like, 9 or 10 blues, you'd have to draw a hand, like, you'd have to have a hand where you just, like, have this plus 1 card in hand and then play this and draw double blue so that your hand is just blue, red. Like, it's the chances of the banisher hand clause coming up are very small. It is possible that you end up on, like, if you're playing a more blue heavy draw my deck, it is possible where you can end up with a hand where, like, you have this and 2 reds and you draw 2 blues and now your hand is just 2 blues that are probably not great. And you're floating 2 resources, so you can't even really pitch them. But I feel like that's fairly unlikely. It can happen, and it probably will happen. And it definitely informs your deck building decisions in some ways. Like, I think you're definitely going to see even the big dragon Dromais running fewer blues than they did previously.
Sure. But like,
the floor is the realistic floor of this is not all that low.
So, I mean, and I'm again, this is, pardon my ignorance if it sounds ignorant, but
It usually does.
Go fuck yourself.
I know.
You'd almost always want to play this with Crown of Dominion, right? Like, you're
almost
Providence for
yeah.
Because the draw 2 off of this is worth the 2 block you're losing effectively.
Yeah. I think that is actually the realistic drawback of this card. If there is a drawback to it, is we are losing Crown of Providence, we are losing Arcanite Skullcap. Those are both very powerful pieces of equipment. But we are getting a gold token, and, like, I mean, Dromai has run Crown of Dominion just for the gold token in the past. So, like, that gold token actually has a lot of value.
Because it's another Ash outlet, if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another Ash outlet. Also, the gold token, so if you're running Redline and you're playing the 3-cost dragons, the gold token actually is another way to play a 3-cost dragon without needing Tome in hand, which actually makes the incentive to playing 3 costs in a Redline deck a lot more appealing. Because you can go 0 cost into pitch 2 reds to the gold, draw a card, activate Furnace, play your 3 cost. So, like, you can play a 3 cost on essentially 3 cards instead of 4 in normal Redline, where you'd have to pitch 3 cards to play it, which isn't still ideal, but usually your 3 costs are so powerful that they're worth 3 cards, so it's fine.
So, last question on this: how much are you going to pay for these in cold foil?
If there are cold foils, I don't know, all of the dollars.
All of them?
Probably. I don't know. I just bought a. Do I get to? Can I show off? Can I show off mine?
You can show it off.
All right.
I'm just gonna keep admiring the Dinobots while you do this.
I did get the Dinobots. There's some Dinobots.
Yeah. Not vintage, but you know.
Dude,
that's pretty.
The Studio Series Dinobots are great.
Yeah, they're really good. I like them a lot. Did you buy the remote control Grimlock yet?
No, that thing's way too expensive.
Come on.
Speaking of things that are way too expensive,
That is a gold foil flame scale furnace.
Yeah.
So how many are you away from having all of that gold foil? Yep, there's your Snapdragons, there's your furnace. You still need a gold. Well, now you need the gold foil Crown of Dominion.
So, admittedly, I don't know if I do. The gold foil Crown of Dominion is not the marble; it's just the regular. And I think the marble.
Yeah.
I think the marble's prettier. I actually don't know if I'm gonna get a gold Crown of Dominion. Like, if it just falls in my lap, then like, sure. But like, the marble Crown of Dominion's just prettier, and I kind of like it better. And there is no gold cold Seeker's gloves yet.
Oh, sure. Yep. They might be in the ProQuest season this time.
Yeah, we know we do know that the Ironhide are.
The Ironhides
Yeah,
are.
we got a confirmation that Ironhide is. So admittedly, I am a little nervous if the Seekers are, because that means there is a whole lot of misses.
Yeah.
If you can,
there's a lot of whiffs.
If you can pull a Seekers gilet or an Ironhide helm, there's gonna be some not happy,
some very sad people. Yeah. They're gonna be wanting that Coda Frost that they opened last time. Like, it's gonna be that bad. Yeah. Fuck, that'd be just awful.
But like, it'd be good for me because then I could get I'd really like a gold Seekers mitts.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's actually the other really nice perk about this this change to Crown of Dominion is I think I just saved like $10,000 not having to get a gold cold Crown of Providence and Skull Cap.
Well, you just need to win it.
Yeah.
Well, the one you can't, but
the other one you can. I think Skull Cap's just in the normal rotation still, as far as I know.
Is it?
I think so. Like, Skull Caps do exist, and they have been just in the rotation. I think they are still in rotation. I haven't seen one in a while, so I don't know for sure.
That has never been anything that I've ever had to think about.
Yeah.
I'm bad at this game.
I mean, I can't win anything to save my life, so I guess that counts.
But you can get close.
I can get close, but which is worse?
Depends. Did you cash that check?
Yeah, I did. I bought a car.
Okay. Think we know what's worse. Think we got an idea here.
Right.
For fuck's sake.
I did buy a car.
Hey, but thanks for buying me dinner, though. That was great.
Yeah, I did buy you dinner.
You did buy me dinner.
I bought a car. My car is red with a black leather interior.
Shocking.
Yeah.
To no one.
I decided if I was gonna buy a car with withdraw my money, it had to be red.
Yeah, and it sounds like a great car to drive to Milwaukee. Just saying.
Yeah. Also, I didn't have a name for it for the longest time, and then a friend of the show, Syndra, named my car, and she did it as a joke, and now I can't undo it. So my car is Toyota Optimi.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. I can't unname.
Well,
I can't unname that.
No, you sure can't, but ouch. You should have really taken some time to name your own fucking car, is what I just heard.
I really should have. Toyota Optima is not a bad name, though.
No, but it's a charmer name.
It is a charmer.
And we don't want charmer names on cars. Like, that's not okay. Yeah. Again, a reminder that I give everybody every week, the 20K Realm Invitational Weekend, first week of December, in Columbus, 1st through 3rd. 20K multi-format invitational starts on Friday, 10K brawl on Saturday, 5K team sealed on Sunday, also other games to play too, and then cosplay contest and all kinds of other fucking nonsense. And I think that you'll be there.
I will be there. I don't know what I'm doing there yet. I was
brilliant.
Yeah, I was talking to Keith about this last week. And he's like, you're coming, right? And I'm like, yeah, 100% I'm coming. He's like, are you playing or are you going to have a booth? I was like, I don't fucking know. I'm just going to bring all my shit and figure it out when I get there.
That's fair. I mean, you could just be sitting there doing up a goth Dorinthia.
I could.
Like, maybe that's what you need to do. Which, I mean, I was thinking about that, right? Like, thinking about goth Dorinthia, and I was like, okay, so because, the insinuation was made in that conversation on Twitter with a friend of the humanity, Bryn, from the Banished Zone, that she meant Shadow as goth. And I'm like, well, but is that really true? Because, I mean, so what type of goth would each of the Shadow heroes be? And I was just like, okay, so Leviah is the thrash metal goth, right? Like absolute crusty as shit thrash metal goth.
So Chain is definitely like the like
he's hot topic.
Yeah, he's like high school goth.
He is hot topic goth,
absolutely.
Listening to My Chemical Romance and thinking it's edgy. Vincent is typo negative goth.
Okay.
Right.
So, like,
and
super, like, yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what would Dorinthia be, and I'm like,
Vincent is vampire goth.
I think he's better. I think that Shane is closer to vampire goth.
I think so.
And Vincent's like living the lifestyle goth.
Yeah. That's what I mean. When I like the lifestyle vampire, like the just super hardcore.
Yeah, Shrine to Peter Steele goth. And I think that Dorinthia would be the
Victorian goth? No.
She would be the goth that is accepted that both life and death are meaningless. And so only things you can do are to create these situations, and the only joy you have is to read about yourself in penthouse letters. I'm pretty sure that is the type of goth that Dorinthia is.
I'm not gonna lie, if I was a goth, I would be that kind of goth, except just listening to the good people that run all of these podcasts that just talk about me every week.
Jesus Christ, you're insufferable.
Oh yeah, you knew that when you invited me on.
It was a moment of weakness.
Do you know how many times I'm gonna just listen to this just because I really like the sound of my own voice?
Oh, you know what? Put my numbers up there. That's great.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah.
Go for it.
This is it. Also, I just want to make sure that this is the most listened to episode of the show, just so I can remind you of that on a daily basis.
It's a really high bar. Like, not gonna lie.
I'm just gonna link this to my patrons.
Oh, go for it. Yeah, do that. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Are you ready to tackle some listener questions? You probably never got to do this before.
No, I've not. I'm excited.
Oh shit. Okay, we're gonna do a layup first because these are a palate cleanser, an aperitif.
Okay.
This is from our friend Farsist. The question is, if Bright Lights is supposed to be a crack a pack and shuffle up and play, will this be popular, or will having a one class focus set hold it back?
Dude, I'm personally excited as shit for Crack a Pack. It sounds like a ton of fun.
It is. I can confirm because we do it all the fucking time here.
Yeah.
But part of the fun of doing pack battles is the randomness of it.
Sure.
So for people that have experienced playing pack battles before, I think it will be a little boring.
If you're talking about for like, yeah, because like Shapeshifter Seal is kind of the same way, where like it's just a lot of the wacky shit is the fun of it. But I think for the purposes of like the people who aren't into the wacky shit, the people who just like want to play some Flesh and Blood, I think this is a much more mainstream, accessible format.
Well, it's 1,000% like this is marketing at its finest.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're just encouraging people to keep cracking more packs.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. I mean, look at us. I've done 93 weeks of free ads for LSS.
Yeah.
They got me already.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we talked about whether or not we were going to go over this, and I decided, fuck it, we're going to do it.
All right.
Because the last time Greg asked a listener question, it was a fuck, marry, kill question that I had to delete from the show. Which I feel bad still. It's the only time I've edited out a segment.
Really?
Or anything else from the show.
Is it on the Patreon?
No, I have not done that yet. I might play it live. I'm waiting for some time.
See,
but
now I really want to know what it is. Can we recreate it live? Can we do a dramatic reading?
No, we're not. No, because one of us would have to play Carolina, and neither of us are cut out for that.
I can definitely do Carolina.
Oh, I don't think you can.
I absolutely can do Carolina.
Mm-mm.
I'm a huge Mara simp. Mara is fine as fuck. Mara, fuck me. See, I got this.
Oh shit, you can do Carolina. What do you know? Greg asks Greg of Fap After Dark fame as well.
Uh-huh.
He is the co-host of Fap After Dark. And I mean that we got into some nonsense in that show, and I did allude to the Fuck, Marry, Kill segment, but I didn't play it in the first FAP After Dark. It will get played on FAP After Dark at some point.
Oh my god. Do you still have it saved?
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
Why wouldn't I?
I
have every recording saved.
I assume you just listen back every now and then just to remind yourself of the good times.
Are there any?
There's plenty. You've been around me. You've had good times.
I think that's the other way around. Let's be fair.
I mean, that's fair.
But so Greg asked, if a Johnny Frisco gets CNC pummeled in a forest and no one else is around to hear it, should they have discarded? Okay, we did not talk about this last week. Pummelgate, as it's being called. And although Charmer and I have now been on Wax on a different show discussing our opinions of it, and as someone who was a Magic grinder, and back in the day where I had to babysit my opponent's triggers, because otherwise it was a GRV for both of us and a warning for both of us. Nothing felt more freeing than when I didn't have to anymore. Just because it alleviated a mental strain from me. Now, that being said, if somebody pummels me and they hit, I'm discarding the fucking card.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to shoot that angle, there's nothing in the rules that says you can't. And the rules don't need adjusted. None of that needs to happen. If you CNC me, I'm going to take my arsenal and I'm going to put it in my graveyard. If you pummel me, I'm going to discard a card. Do I expect you to extend the same courtesy? No. Which is why I'm just going to say trigger very loudly. And even when my opponent doesn't have an arsenal, I still say blow up your arsenal. So I never forget.
Yeah.
That is built into me from an obsession during Magic of not missing my fucking triggers.
Yeah.
And the community is a very new spot for a lot of people. And they're not used to that mentality. And I understand.
So
but it's got to be a more nuanced conversation than people are treating it as, because people are just treating it or are beating it with clubs instead of like discussing the whys and hows.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that gets skipped over a lot is this one feels different. Like we've had mistrigger discussions before. Like we've had mistriggers. Hell, I had a game on camera at a Pro Tour. My game with Andrew Rothermel. He hit me with an Endless Arrow, did not pick up his Endless Arrow, and continued on with his turn and didn't realize it till later and didn't get the Endless Arrow back. And no one said shit about that. No one said a word. Everyone was just like, yep, that was a mistrigger. We moved on. The difference here is that, like, there's a discussion to be had of what counts as acknowledging a trigger. Because Pummel requires no action from the player other than to remind your opponent to fulfill his game state. Like, this gets complicated because, like, the Pummel was in play. Both players discussed, like, there was literally a discussion about the Pummel. Like, Jamie Faulkner points at the Pummel at one point while it's happening, and they talk about it because it's a Pummel in Katsu and it's weird. And then, like, there's no acknowledgement after that, and then, like, he just waits and then just goes to his turn. And because, like, I think I would be very curious to know if his opponent had actually just completely forgotten, or if he had just sort of assumed that Jamie had done it, because acknowledging that sort of thing is just not a way people tend to play the game. Most people don't actively say, please discard a card from my Pummel. That's just not how most people play the game. And the game itself was not a particularly, like, tight game. There's lots of, you know, if you go back and watch that game, there's lots of just, like, skipping over triggers and skipping phases, because, like, that's just how people play the game. Like, most people aren't going, I go to my beginning of turn phase, I would like to move to my arsenal. Like, people just don't play that way. And I think playing a very loose, fairly casual game and then angle shooting to a point where your opponent is probably not going to acknowledge this trigger because they just have been skipping over acknowledging triggers the whole game, feels not great to me. Like, yes, it's within the rules. Yes, it is technically legal, but I think this one feels different than just saying like, oh, my Briar opponent forgot to put their embodiment in play, because the controlling player does not actually have an active role in fulfilling that trigger. I think feels a little different than a normal mistrigger discussion.
Does that need to be a nuance in the rules for that?
I'm not sure. And this is something that I've actually been kind of debating back and forth on. And I don't know. Because like you said, like, I don't think anyone, or at least I don't, and I don't think you do, and I don't think most people want to force us to have to remind our opponent of their triggers. Like, it feels bad, it feels shitty, like, and I think there is something at top level play of making sure that you're hitting those triggers and remembering all of your little things. This is a complicated game with a lot going on. And I think the best player, if we're trying to find who's the best player in the world, then, you know, the player that is remembering all of their little things is a part of that, and is important. But I think taking advantage of an opponent shortcutting when intent is obvious is a bigger gray area to me.
Well put. Yeah. I give you points. That's good. That's good. You didn't even say fuck. I'm so proud of you.
Fuck.
Perfect. Now you've really punctuated it.
All right.
Honestly, I don't. There are stakes in these games,
Mm-hmm.
and stakes are usually what make people act like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. As the stakes get higher, people are going to be more likely to try to find angles, to try to find wrinkles, to try to create angles to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a lot of history of that, specifically from UK Nets for whatever reason. But you're right. It does feel slightly different. And I just really wish that, or I hope, I guess I should say, that the community evolves enough that we can have a discussion about it rather than a bunch of people shouting and nothing happening.
Yeah,
that doesn't help anything.
That I will agree. I think the whole Twitter discourse got pretty wild. I think Jamie Faulkner didn't help his own case by
well, no,
fanning the flames pretty extensively.
Aggressively, one might say.
Aggressively, yeah. But like, it was a complicated issue. It was a fairly nuanced issue. There's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of people felt really bad. And I think if we know anything about the internet, it is that if someone gets their feelings hurt, things are about to go down. And logic is going to go out the window.
The internet is a completely logical place at all points in time, full of reasonable people, said no one ever.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move on from this,
yeah.
But anybody that wants a more nuanced discussion on this, feel free to hit us up. I mean, I'm more than happy to discuss it in most cases with civilized people. I do
believe you have is it a Discord server?
Yes, it is a Discord server.
Yeah,
yes.
I believe that is
the link will be in the show notes.
That is a place where people can discuss said things.
It is. There's certain people you probably just have to mute through this discussion. Like, I mean, it's like porn. You'll know them when you read them.
It's mostly me.
No, you're usually fine. Moving on, another one from Kaz Bellerin, good friend of ours, great dude. He asked, do you believe all heroes should be allowed in the LL format, or should they have to have reached LL? As a person who loves playing Skeletor Viscerai and knowing that Skeletor will never return to CC legality, probably true. I feel no interest in playing Viz outside of the LL format. Do you have a take on the LL format? I mean, as a reformed prison stand.
So I'll be honest. When they first started talking about the LL format, I was very excited for it to be only the LL heroes. Because I think even early on when discussing the format, James White had kind of talked about sort of a return to, like, the WTR, where there was just only 4 heroes in the game. And I was pretty excited about that, of seeing this format that was literally just going to be Prism, Starvo, Chain, Briar, Oldham, just hammering it out to see who's the best of the best. But after James announced that it's going to be every hero and the doors are wide open to everything, I started the brain started turning a little bit. The dead hamster got out of the way and we got a live one in there again. It started rolling. And I started kind of realizing just how much this format opens up. And when you start bringing in decks that are not LL'd, but are still incredibly powerful decks. We talk about, there's, Scalata Viscerae is a real deck. Stubby Hammer's Phi is a real deck. And even, talking about, well, what about if there's any other, we get to see what Lexi can do with Hypothermia.
Or Ball Lightning.
Yeah, or Ball Lightning Lexi, I think now that I've had a little bit of time to sort of process what the format's going to look like, I think I'm more excited than ever. I think this format is going to be the Wild West. I have no idea. I want to play Dromai with Plunder Run. That sounds
Why not?
Fucking great. Dromai with Plunder Run sounds awesome to me.
I think Plunder Run's probably the single card. If I was to pick one card, that would be present in that format, that's not equipment, that I would be excited to be playing with again, it would be Plunder Run.
Yeah.
Equipment wise, it's Duskblade, but
so
the fact that Warmonger's Diplomacy exists,
I was about to say exactly that. I don't even know if Duskblade is good.
It might not be because of Diplomacy. But the fact that Starvo gets to look at most of the cards in all of Flesh and Blood and go, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
And just keep doing the thing.
Do you know Starvo gets Hypothermia now?
Oh, yeah, if Starvo wants it, Starvo gets Hypothermia. Absolutely.
Jesus Christ. That
Starvo can play Blizzard.
Yeah.
If they really just want to slow something down. It doesn't block, but fuck it.
Yeah.
And it pitches for, it pitches for bonk, and that's really what you're looking for.
Yeah.
You look at some of these other decks that have come out of the woodwork. You're right. Dromai didn't exist.
Yeah.
At the same time as a Starvo or a Chain or anything else.
I'm not gonna lie.
And Dromai can be a giant pain in the ass.
I actually I was having this exact discussion the other day. I genuinely have no idea what the Dromai Starvo matchup looks like at all.
No one does.
Because Starvo was historically not great at clearing Prism Auras on turns where he missed Starvo, and so that's gonna translate into clearing dragons the same way. And Starvo,
yes and no.
So Starvo has poppers, but Starvo doesn't want to be using his poppers.
No, absolutely not. But you have to remember the other side of that though, which is with Prism, the problem really turned into Spectral Shields. Towards late game, the auras were the thing that were doing most of the attacking and most of the work. But the fact that there are multiple Spectral Shields every turn and you just couldn't get through enough damage was the bigger problem.
And that's what I say. When I say I don't know, I mean very genuinely. I have no idea. I have no idea because Crippling Crush dominated, Oakenol dominated are real bad for Dromai. But I also think that Dromai has a real chance because Dromai can also flood a lot faster on a board than Prism could. Right. If Prism got 2 auras in a turn, that was a nightmare scenario. Dromai can play 3, especially when we talk about this new tome. I think this new tome, 3 dragon turns are going to be not that uncommon.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard to deal with.
Yeah, and if I go, here's 3 dragons, you can either give me a popper and then just fuck your next turn, or just live with this as the board state for the next 6 turns.
Or just hope hell your turn is Fuse, Lightning Surge, Attack, Hammer, and clean up the board.
Yeah.
But that's magical Christmas land shit.
Yeah, I actually am really looking for it. But then also, Dromai doesn't want to play a whole lot of defense reactions. Dromai can't play unmovable. Dromai just cannot play unmovable.
You can try, I guess. I don't know.
Dude, the Cabal played that card in PT3. It didn't go well for them.
Good enough.
But if Starvo's gonna throw Starvo shit, there's not a lot Dromai is going to do to stop it. Dromai might maybe have a sync below and sometimes be able to get lucky, but if Starvo hits Starvo, Dromai's in trouble. But if Dromai just vomits dragons in the field, suddenly she doesn't care about her hand anymore. You know, you can dominate that Crippling Crush, take 2 cards. If I get to keep a Ravenous Rabble and attack for 15, like, I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see how that matchup goes. I genuinely have no idea.
Yeah, I don't really know. The other one that I think is very interesting is actually Prism versus Dromai.
Mm-hmm.
Because what the fuck? Like, that's a staring contest.
So Prism v Dromai, we had a very brief window where those two were both legal. And initially Prism was favored. But
so much has happened.
Dromai has changed so much as a deck since. Like, this was the very earliest days of very unrefined Dromai. So I don't know. I can tell you Dromai v New Prism is a slaughter.
Well, most things into New Prism is an actual slaughter. So.
Yeah, the last time I played New Prism, I ended at 45.
Yeah.
I played that game. In my opening hand, I had a Flicker Trick and was very excited to arsenal that Flicker Trick.
And
then I ended that game and scooped that Flicker Trick back up from my arsenal and shoved it into my deck.
Didn't need.
No, literally, and not even like just didn't need. Literally, never got attacked. The one I played 2 sigils. The 1 point of damage I took the entire game was killing a Merciful Retribution, and I just didn't have the heart to AB it.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is from. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Wild West format, exciting, good.
Wild West, yeah. I'm totally in for the Wild West format. I'm very excited for it. And I think that Viserai is probably one of the things I start playing with first because that looks like fun as shit. Next one's from George. He says he's got 2 for us this week. With the eventual goal for set releases to be all draftable sets, do you think LSS could adopt the idea of epilogue sets like Wizards did with March of the Machines Aftermath to be their supplemental sets? I fucking hope not. That's my answer for that one.
Have they actually said that they want everything to be a draftable set? I didn't actually.
No, they want to do 1 supplemental a year
and
3 draftables a year.
Okay, so, and I think that's where this should be.
Yeah, I think that's what it should be.
I definitely think the supplemental sets are always a little bit weird, just because like everyone gets really excited for supplemental sets on release because everybody gets new stuff, but then because they're not really draftable sets, they sort of fall off in interest pretty quickly. And I would like to find some way to address that, and I'm not sure the way to do it. I would leave. I
don't think anybody is.
I would leave that to much smarter people than me. Like I have heard rumors of people trying to do like Monarch draft with like a pack of Dustodon, which sounds kind of interesting, and like something like that might make things at least a little bit spicy. I don't know if that.
I can tell you right now that Dustodon as a limited set is fucking awful. Just.
Like as a whole set, but like if you just do like 3 packs of Monarch and then like 1 pack is like a Dustodon kicker.
Yeah, I mean that we play with that kind of stuff around here all the time, and it might be okay. Yeah. But as its own like limited environment, there are a billion 0 blocks and a bunch of cards that do absolutely fucking nothing.
Oh yeah, that sounds terrible.
So it's not good. His second question was, with PvE being an ongoing topic, is it though? How do you think they will theme them, i.e. expeditions and the Savage Land being a theme? I mean, that's probably it, right? They're probably going to theme them around locations.
I would imagine.
And story points, right? So the attack on Solana from the Demonastery would be a story point. The Emperor, the war,
like the uprising in Volcor, I think would be like a big one. And I could see even doing some smaller scale stuff. Like I could see like a hunt in the Savage Lands where you're going after some big game monster beast would be kind of cool.
Sure, yeah, that'd be great. I think that'd be fun as hell. Or the arena would be the other one, which we've kind of seen. We've begun because Cox exists.
Yeah.
And we've all wanted to go beat on some Cox before.
That's
in
true.
The Savage Lands.
That is true.
So there is that too. Last question. We're almost there.
Oh.
Last questions from Big Lou. With the advent of the Living Legend format and no holds barred fab on the horizon, thank God, What cards do you recommend picking up before price spikes happen, or what do you speculate can become more expensive?
Prism cards.
You always say that.
Just
good answer.
Prism cards.
You always say the cheapest day to buy into Flesh and Blood was yesterday. And as gamblers, I'm curious what you're hedging on. Well, Mara, I don't know how much of a gambler you are. I'd love to roll the bones though.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I were speculating right now, it would be. One would be I would definitely be going hard into Viscerai foils that go into the Skeleta deck. So Skeleta itself, and then Sonata Arcanix would be the other one. Like those are big. They're big deals. Go get Winter's Whales back.
Yeah,
you're gonna need it. And Stalagmite, not Stalagmite. Rampart is dirt fucking cheap right now.
it like weirdly so, right? Like
yeah, like go get yourself a Rampart or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Those are going to be super important. The fact that Starvo gets to play, Crown of Seeds is another one.
By the way, the Marvel
Starvo, go get Crown of Seeds.
The Marvel Starvo is shockingly cheap right now.
$50.
Yeah,
$50.
That thing was like
go get a Marvel
several
Starvo.
$100s and is now like $50.
Sure was. The other ones like you can't go get Do It to Dustblade because Minmax already did.
Mm-hmm.
The other things are like foils of the cards
Mm-hmm.
that we can't play with now. So foil Plunder Runs,
yeah.
Great investment. Foil like Ball Lightnings, great investment. The and then look at some of the cards that are underplayed now because they kind of belong to a different hero type of things. Like Starstrucks are already expensive. They're gonna get worse because Jesus, that card is a beating.
Yeah.
So those are the types of things I would target. If you're looking for the lower end stuff, I would say WTR, Arc, and Crew foils are your go-tos and the common slots for commonly played cards.
Mm-hmm.
Foil Sink Belows, Foil Fate for Scenes, Foil Plunder Runs, Foil Belittles. I guess that's Monarch for Belittles and Minnowisms, but Foil Belittles, Foil Minnowisms, and go get yourself a couple of Cold Foil Stubbies.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea too.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marvel Phoenix Flames.
Marvel Phoenix Flames, pretty good one. I think just in general, like if playing Magic has taught me anything, it is that if you give people a non-rotating format where they're not worried about their cards going away, people will invest a lot more into bling. I would definitely be looking at popular cold foils. Popular, like if you want to get into like the pink strip alpha stuff, like I think you're going to see a lot of people put a lot of money into their favorite LL deck.
Yeah, they're going to make that look as pretty as humanly possible. Like that's going to be a thing. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did it. You survived.
I did the thing.
An episode of Flesh and Pod.
And we did it.
How do you feel?
And we did it without saying fuck once.
That is super fucking not true.
We tried.
Like,
we tried.
No, we didn't. We really didn't. That Band-Aid was torn off like 10 seconds in, maybe even quicker. Like, we really didn't try.
Yeah, I think.
But we're gonna go ahead and.
Monetized.
Oh, fine. That's we're not monetized on YouTube anyway. Who cares?
Oh, okay, good.
But we're not monetized actually on any platform outside of Patreon. So
subscribe to their Patreon. What are you people doing?
Well, you can also, like, if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, you can also just log into YouTube and then search us up and then click the subscribe button, because we have usually somewhere between 600 and 1,000 listeners every week.
Mm-hmm.
And we have like maybe 200 YouTube subscribers. So it's like kind of weird.
Oh.
But not blaming anybody, just saying, if you get a minute,
I mean,
feel free.
I'll blame people. Do you want me to blame people?
No, I don't want you to blame people.
Oh, okay. Subscribe to their YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. Just ask. It's nice.
Yeah.
Just be pleasant. We're gonna thank some patrons though, because they are the people that keep the lights on, the mics hot. To steal some lines from Mike, or some, not from Mike, from Tommy Fresh. So we're gonna thank our associate producers, Andy, Kenny, and the Salty Sea Cat. And then our executive producers on up. We've got Blaze Storm, C-Dubs, Josh Levy. I gotta get a good finger crack in this. Get loosened up for Lance Good Thrust. Matt Two Tokes, Papa Mike, Alex, Philip, Rich, Taylor, and Trevor, if you are interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. The link's in the show notes. If you need to contact us for any reason whatsoever, you can email us at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at fleshpod, which still sounds kind of pornographic. I really wish we could have fixed that. I'm the one to blame. I actually would love to blame Jordan for that, but that one was actually on me. That's the easiest way. And always remember, if you do have complaints, they will go to Flesh and Pod Legal, which is still a subsidiary of Black Hole Legal, which is still the garbage can next to Jordan Kennedy's desk. I've seen a lot of questions about that in the Discord, just making sure that they know that it's still Flesh and Pod Legal.
That's important.
Mara, where can they find you? That's super important.
You can find me at Blackwing Studio on Twitter. I also have an Etsy shop where I sell my custom tokens. That is also at Blackwing Studio. I have a Patreon, also at Blackwing Studio, real easy to remember. I've got a now 40-plus page Dromai primer on my Patreon, as well as our own very active Patreon Discord server. And shout out to all of my patrons, who are all pretty amazing and wonderful people and keep my lights on, which is wonderful. Otherwise, you can always email me at Blackwing Altars if you're interested in custom art and commissions. That's the other thing I do to pay my bills. And I pretty much live on Discord. So you can find me in the Flesh and Pod Discord. I post there at least reasonably often. I'm around everywhere. My DMs are open on everything. If you ever have questions, want to talk Dromai, or just want to say hi, feel free to drop me a message anywhere.
There's an attack cat behind you.
Oh, is there an attack cat? Oh, there is an attack cat behind me. That's my attack cat.
All right, that happened.
All right.
Yeah, everybody needs an attack cat. All right,
well,
that's all we got for this
three,
week.
And it is 20 minutes past their dinner time, so they're angry.
And they are now fighting, so... my money's on the one that has the high ground. I've seen this before. I was on Star Wars. This was one of these cats is going to lose some shit. But, all right, well, that's all we got for this week, folks. And, hey, where episode? It's the one you're fucking listening to. But also, thank you for listening. Everybody have a good week. Bye. Bye, kitty.
Bye.